Hi, my name is Emily Medill. I'm here with what I call my weekly happiness strategy video where I read aloud my weekly featured article. This week's article is a brand new one that I've just written. It's called Be Unapologetically Who You Are. How many times in a week do you replay in your mind things you've said or conversations you've had? Do you sometimes replay these same conversations aloud with others? How often do you second guess yourself? Do you find yourself wondering how you are perceived or how your intentions might be misunderstood by others? If any of this sounds familiar, you aren't alone. Brene Brown is a research professor at the University of Houston. For the last 2 decades, she has studied courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. In her book, Daring Greatly, Brene states, belonging is the innate human desire to be part of something larger than us. Because this yearning is so primal, we often try to acquire it by fitting in and by seeking approval, which are not only hollow substitutes for belonging, but often barriers to it. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. I relate to what a heavy burden it is to worry and care too much about what other people may or may not think. The repeat lesson I'm grateful for is that anytime I find myself shrinking or apologizing for who I am, I'm operating from a wounded place of feeling like I'm not enough. Walking around wounded in the belief we aren't enough, knowingly or unknowingly, is an endless loop that traps us in unhappiness. When our self-worth is tied up in our actions and relationships, we never get the feeling that we are okay exactly as we are. Our worth becomes externally driven. In an effort to break free from the trap, it's essential to nurture our wounds and allow our true selves to take the lead. We have to be okay being more of who we are in all of our darkness and light. Loving who we are as we are, wounds and all, is a practice that requires grace, compassion, and humor. Think of it as a step-by-step way to approach the day. Here are 3 strategies I turn to when I need an added reminder to be unapologetically who I am. If these practices resonate, give them a try. Number 1, replace guilt with love. Guilt will always knock us off course. When our actions stem from guilt, we aren't being true to ourselves. Acting out of guilt also sends mixed signals to the people we are in relationship with. Guilt leads to people-pleasing behavior, martyrdom, and feeling as though our tank is always on empty. It's challenging to be unapologetically who we are if we feel like we should be a certain way around others. I'm blessed to still have my grandmother in my life. She is 91. After my grandfather passed, we made the decision as a family to help my grandma settle into a care facility. It wasn't easy. It was especially hard on my mom. There was an immense feeling of guilt shared by all of us in the family. I still find myself wishing I had more time to be there with her, as I know time is limited and precious at this point. Being in the throes of raising a thriving family is my top priority. Add to that a business, running a household, and taking care of my health, and it becomes glaringly clear that time is not an abundant resource I have at this particular stage of life. So how do I replace guilt with love and show up unapologetically as myself in this situation? Well, my grandma loves cookies and I happen to love baking cookies. So each week I bring my grandma a batch of fresh cookies and we have a visit. If my kids aren't partaking in one of their sports, I bring them and our little dog along for the visit. It isn't always a long visit, but I fill her in on everything that's happening in our lives. We stay consistently connected. I feel good about our visits and time together. I know she's happy to see us, and she appreciates the cookies. Sure, I wish I had more time, and guilt can come creeping in sometimes, but I don't let it stick around or influence how I show up. My main priority is to show up, express my love, and be present with my grandma while I can. I appreciate and make the most of the time we do have, instead of apologizing for how I'm not able to show up. I don't want to invite those weird feelings into our visit. An act of love extinguishes the power of guilt. Instead of worrying about how you should show up from a place of love. Love always paves the path to authenticity. Number 2, don't take on pushy people's agendas. Sometimes you'll come across people in your inner and outer social circles who are pushy. These pushy people are fantastic teachers, especially if you have a hard time holding boundaries. Until you practice healthy boundaries, they will continue to show up in all of their pushiness. You'll keep drawing in these same people or similar people who are quick to make demands and requests of your time, energy, and light. These pushy peeps often become trigger people and teachers. They become teachers because we can use how we feel when we're around them and how we react to them as a barometer for how centered we are in our truth. Instead of shrinking, overreacting, or caving in the presence of pushy people, practice how it feels to not take on their agenda as your own. It's okay to say no. It doesn't change who you are. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Pushy people are often acting out of a wounded place, so don't personalize their behavior. As for setting healthy boundaries, start with where you are. Make one small step at a time toward implementing boundaries with those who overstep. Reclaim your right to be unapologetically you. And finally, number 3, find your light and know your center. The trick to showing up unapologetically as who we are is to know who we are inside and out. If you don't already have a self-reflection and self-awareness practice, start one in a way that suits you. What is your definition of success and joy? Make a detailed list of what this looks like to you. What are your usual triggers and stopping places? What causes you to shrink or feel less than who you are? How might you nurture your wounds? When you fall off course, what helps you get back on track? How will you honor all aspects, not just the shiny parts of who you are? Being unapologetically who we are is staying true to who we are through all of the ups and downs in life. Sure, we will get knocked off center, but when we know who we are at our core, it's easier to recalibrate when we go off course. When we see our light and know our light, it's easier to come back home when we find ourselves lost, when we find ourselves lost in the dark. At the end of the day, who you are is always more than enough. Be unapologetically you. Pardon me. So that is our article this week. Be unapologetically who you are. And it's one that I've just written. It's up on thriveglobal.com. I'm honored to be one of Thrive Global's editors at large. So I share all of my writing up on Thrive Global as well as on emilymadill.com. I will share the link to the article below this video, and I'll also share a link to my weekly notes that I send out every Thursday morning. I've been curating them for the last 4 years, and in them I just give some easy to implement tips and strategies to living your best life by your definition. So I will include the links to both of those, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week, and just give yourself permission to start with where you are and to feel good about who you are, and to just, if anything, to just lead your steps forward from a place of love and a place of compassion for yourself and for everybody else out there in the world, navigating being human. So I hope this article resonates with you, and as always, I look forward to connecting again soon. Thank you so much.